faster, meaning your risk of getting sick is that much higher. But with a mask and a life-saving vaccine, you can stay safe and defeat Delta.
The wait is finally over. Shen Yun returns to the stage with an all-new production filled with beauty, majesty, and a powerful message of hope. Discover the lost culture of ancient China. Discover this season. Coming to Auditorium Theater, October 9th and 10th. Tickets at shenyun.com/Chicago or call 888-99-SHOWS.
99%. Nearly everyone in the hospital with COVID was unvaccinated. Don't let that be you. Vaccines work against the Delta variant. Get vaccinated today. Let's defeat Delta.
WTTW programming originates from the Renee Crown Public Media Center.
Next time on Midsummer Murders.
The cause of death? Ketamine, horse tranquilizer.
A man's murder is made to look like a trampling.
Why go to such elaborate lengths? I don't know.
The victim wanted to shut down an attraction.
Harvest Fair's a big deal around here.
And Barnaby thinks it's the key.
Go to the fairground. I want every inch of it searched. Our house is clean, and yet the evidence keeps on bringing us back to your door.
Midsummer Murders.
Tonight at 8 on WTTW.
Hi, I'm Jackie, visiting from Portland, Oregon.
And I'm Victoria from Chicago. And you're watching WTTW.
Tonight's presentation of Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Mollenhauer Progressive Philanthropic Fund in honor of Ida Mollenhauer, supporting quality journalism.
Good evening and welcome to the Week in Review. I'm Paris Schutz. We'll be joined by our Week in Review guests in just a moment, but first, some of today's top stories. As expected, Governor J.B. Pritzker signed new legislative maps into law today. This after Springfield Democrats went back and revised their maps based on newly released census data. Pritzker says the new legislative maps align with the Federal Voting Rights Act, but he's received criticism for going back on campaign promises that he would support independent maps. Republicans and other groups have slammed these maps and are even filing lawsuits to oppose them. Two familiar faces are coming back to Chicago Tuesday for a historic groundbreaking.
Barack and I always knew we'd come back here. It's where I grew up, surrounded by a community that made me who I am.
It's where I got my start in public service.
That, of course, is former President Barack Obama and his wife, former First Lady Michelle. They'll be here for the official groundbreaking of the Obama Presidential Center in Jackson Park, and they'll be joined by Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker in what is billed as a virtual groundbreaking. And this comes after years of delays, debates, and lawsuits from groups opposing the construction of the center in historic Jackson Park. The Obamas are raising upwards of $500 million to complete the project. The parents of a missing Chicago woman are pleading with authorities to find out what happened to her. Chatham resident and U.S. Postal Service employee Kiara Coles went missing 3 years ago when she was 26 years old and 3 months pregnant. Today is her 29th birthday, and Coles' parents held a news conference to urge anyone with information about their daughter to report it to police. It looks like we don't have that sound bite, and we will move on now to our regular Week in Review panel. And joining us are Mariah Woelfel of WBEZ, Kevin Fishbane of The Athletic, Sarah Schulte of ABC 7 News, and Nader Issa of the Chicago Sun-Times. And let's get right to it. Here's what the mayor said when she unveiled her $16.7 billion budget on Monday, followed by part of an interview with a critic, Alderman Ray Lopez, on Chicago Tonight.
Our ultimate goal with this recovery and resiliency budget is to recover and develop Chicago into a safer, stronger, and more prosperous city in which people can take root in, raise a family, build a business, and make better lives.
This budget falls woefully short, Paris, of meeting the needs and challenges of the city of Chicago. You know, I find it amazing that the #1 issue facing Chicagoans, public safety, was glossed over by this budget, which is basically a collection of smoke and mirrors and lies to the people of the city of Chicago.
Sarah Schulte, you know how it usually goes in this city. The mayor issues a budget. There might be a few critics, but ultimately it passes with little dissent. What do you think is going to happen to this one?
Well, I think it's going to pass because, as the mayor touted on Monday, there's no new taxes, no new fees, and no new fines, and that's usually the speed bump in the road for aldermen. But so I think it will ultimately get passed. Plus, she has this windfall of federal money, $1.89 billion from the federal government that she is going to spend on all sorts of social programs, which also has been heavily criticized too. Some of the aldermen are saying, great, what's going to happen when that federal money runs out? But even though there's no new taxes, there still is a tax. I mean, they're allowing an existing tax, the property tax levy, the inflationary rate. They're allowing that to go through. So there is going to be generating about $79 million from a property tax increase.
Right. She said no new taxes, but the caveat here is that property tax is going to go up, as you said, because of inflation, because of the law they passed last year. Mariah Woelfel, budget hearing started today. Do you see any sticking points here in this budget that may cause a group of alder people to dissent?
Well, there were some questions about the property tax increase. Even though it is automatic, tied to inflation, aldermen still have to approve that every year. And so they do have the option to make that a sticking point if they want to do so. I think Sarah highlighted another concern that came up a lot during budget hearings today, that this art funding or this federal funding is a one-time funding source. And so a lot of the innovative programs that you see that sweeten this budget deal for a lot of aldermen, I think aldermen were looking for answers about how those can continue to be funded once federal funding relief runs out. Now, I don't know that necessarily is going to be a sticking point for aldermanic votes on the budget, but I am waiting to see how property taxes will play out in hearings going forward.
So there are aldermen that are concerned about that, but about $1.1 billion of that federal relief does go to stem some of the red ink caused by COVID to the city budget. And there are some alder people that want more of that money to go to some of those programs. Nader Issa, do you see that becoming a debate?
Yeah, I mean, anything can become a debate, but whether the mayor caves to any demands or takes up any issues remains to be seen. I mean, last year during COVID, there was so much debate around the budget, aldermen threatening to, for the first time in recent memory, reject the mayor's city budget. And I don't think there's any sort of animosity this year around this budget. Maybe she'll move some dollars here or there to different programs. Obviously, there's one program, this pilot program for universal basic income that she threw into there that Alderman Villegas is sort of upset about because it was his idea, and she's been delaying talking about it for months, and now put it in there. The mayor did without consulting him, and so yeah, there are going to be programs here or there that can get some more funding, but I don't think there's going to be a huge effort to reject this budget.
Nader, you bring up that spat between Alderman Villegas and Mayor Lightfoot. Alderman Villegas on Monday told us on this show that he came to her with that proposal 6 months before she adopted it, and when she did adopt it, it blindsided him. He had no idea. He was never consulted. Mariah Woelfel, what do you make of that little spat? Is there anything to make of that?
Must continue and will continue.
I think that a lot of aldermen spoke today about how they feel that their voice is being heard. I think we heard an alderman even shoot back at Villegas saying that, he sees his ideas laid out in this budget and he's not going to complain about it, that he's just happy to see them. But I think that the mayor, with this federal windfall, got the opportunity to take from a lot of the progressive ideas that aldermen have been pushing, and political groups as well.
Kevin Fish. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, you also may be hearing from the hospitality industry in this. I mean, some restaurants and hotels are pretty upset that they're not getting more out of this. So, and they've got pretty heavy lobbies. So they may weigh in as as the process goes on
to perhaps get more of that relief money directed their way. Kevin Fishbane, when you look at the city spending, it looks to be about $1.5 billion more this year over last year, despite COVID and despite the shutdown, and the mayor's saying, well, no new taxes. Are you confident the city can make ends meet in future years without big property tax increases?
Well, it's going to be hard, Paris, and I'd imagine it wouldn't be the first time if a couple of years from now we suddenly hear about a new property tax or whatnot. And I think the goal obviously is 5-10 years from now. You don't want to look back and see that they wasted some of this federal windfall, and making sure that they make the best out of it.
Well, we'll see where this debate goes. Budget hearings continue next week before there is a final vote in the coming weeks. Let's talk about some other Chicago political news this week. Debate heats up as City Council holds its first public hearing about new ward maps. Mayor Lightfoot says she's disappointed in CPS's COVID testing and contact tracing programs, and a WBEZ report shows tension between the Chicago Park District and the Chicago Bears. Let's take a listen to what Mayor Lightfoot had to say about the COVID situation in Chicago public schools.
I'm disappointed in the way that this has been rolled out. With the full reopening and bringing children back 5 days a week full time, there should have been more resources to develop, but that's water under the bridge. We're moving forward. CDPH is fully engaged, and I have every confidence that CPS is going to be on the right path moving forward.
Nader, she's disappointed, but for at least a few more years, the buck stops with her. She ultimately is in charge of Chicago Public Schools because she appoints the board members. So who is she disappointed with?
Well, right. That's the key here, is because she is running the district. I mean, until there's an elected board, the mayor is the head of Chicago Public Schools, and her disappointment has to land somewhere. Now, there obviously has been a leadership transition at CPS this summer. Janice Jackson resigned at the end of June. The interim CEO, Jose Torres, has come in, and that's nowhere near the end of it. There's maybe 12 vacancies or interim positions in senior leadership, and so that's had some part to do with it, with some of their troubles getting started to the school year. But at the end of the day, it falls on the mayor to make sure things are running smoothly. And this mayor, especially when it comes to CPS, has not always been willing to accept responsibility for anything that goes wrong. I mean, you look at the bus driver shortage that has widely been talked about to start this school year. A few thousand kids just a couple of days before the school year all of a sudden don't have transportation. And she said at a press conference explicitly, this is not on us, this is not on CPS, this isn't our fault. And if I mean, there are things that she can't acknowledge or her fault or the district's fault, then I'm not sure who she's disappointed.
And in that interview, I followed up. I asked her, well, are you talking about the outgoing interim CPS CEO, Torres? And she said she doesn't want to mention names. She just wants to move on. So it was a little confusing there. At Sarah Schulte, the issue here is that there has not been a system-wide COVID testing protocol. The contact tracing has been subpar, according to the Chicago Teachers Union, according to some parents. Do you see any signs that CPS is figuring this out?
Well, not this week. I mean, they're really, I don't, but I mean, I think they will. I think they have to. There's obviously been a lot of public pressure on them. So I think they will in the next few weeks. I mean, the mayor, the one thing that was kind of confusing to me this week is the mayor said, she's going to have, CDPH and Dr. Allison already get directly involved. Well, they always have been directly involved. So she was asked, Dr. Arwady was asked yesterday at a mayor's press conference, specifically, what more is she going to do? She kind of mentioned following the data more closely, but she really did not answer the question and give specifics on, exactly when will testing on a regular basis begin? What are the protocols for quarantining? I mean, the mayor mentioned this week, she kind of implied that on a school by school basis, that principals weren't really following the quarantining protocols, that they were kind of quarantining kids that just were passing through the hallways. that she felt that there were more kids being quarantined than really necessarily than had to be quarantined. So, that's an issue. It's not just the testing, it's this whole quarantining issue too.
And Nader, could that lead to more labor strife between the mayor and CTU, which to this point has not talked about any potential work stoppage, but who knows if that changes?
Yeah, Jesse Sharkey at Wednesday's Board of Education meeting used the magic word. He was talking about how the union has been complaining about certain issues for months and months, but they didn't make a big deal out of coming back to school in the fall. And he feels like their concerns are only heard when they are tied to a strike or a work stoppage. And everyone's ears perked up because you hear the CTU president talking about a strike again. And so I don't think it's going to lead anything in the near future. If cases go back up in a month and a half, 2 months, you might see a different tune coming out of the CTU. But for right now, it looks like they're trying to hammer things out. They're negotiating, but relatively speaking, I mean, there are cases, there are quarantines in CPS. It's been a mess for a lot of families at a lot of schools. But Dr. Arty, CPS, Mayor Lightfoot are sort of hanging their hat on. Overall, the cases are really low. And so, one thing to add with the testing issue, some of these problems were very avoidable. I mean, testing, for example, they're saying they haven't been able to roll out testing because they haven't been able to complete background checks for the people who are supposed to conduct the testing. That could have been done at the start of the summer, midway through the summer, at any point before the school year started. So, I mean, some of these wounds are definitely self-inflicted.
A lot of issues to wade through here with CPS. All right, Mariah Wolf will also this week a public hearing on the remap process to redraw the city ward maps after the census. And I mean, let's be honest, here's what it always boils down to. It's which ward gets redrawn so that an incumbent alderperson would have to run against another incumbent alderperson, resulting in at least one incumbent losing their job. So who might be in danger here, do you think?
Well, I think there's going to be tension to play out between Latino aldermen and Black aldermen, as we've seen Black population shrink, but Black aldermen vowing to hold on to their 18 majority wards, whereas the Latino population has seen an increase. It's the second largest minority in the city, with whites being at about 31%. And so I think that you kind of started to see those issues play out a little bit in this first public hearing, but that will mostly play out behind closed doors.
And also this...
Also talking about, I mean, aren't they also talking about possibly the first Asian ward, which
absolutely,
really
which could be the old Daly ward around Bridgeport, the old 11th ward, I believe that is. And Sarah, I'll stick with you. You know, the mayor has talked about getting vaccination rates up in this city to 77%. As the President Biden comes to town next week to tout vaccine mandates, do you think that's a reachable goal for the city, or should the city aim higher?
I think the city should aim higher, and I think the mayor actually indicated they probably should aim higher too, but she said she'll settle for 77%. And the 77%, by the way, is just kind of a play off of the 77 neighborhoods in the city of Chicago. That's how they came up with that 77 number. Right now, they're already at 72 or 3 or 4%. So if we're talking about at least one dose, not fully vaccinated. So they're really not far from their goal, and they're talking about it by the end of the year. You know, I think they can reach it, but you know, there still are some zip codes out there that are less than 50% that they're really still having some hard times with.
All right, I want to move on to a story that you reported this week, Mariah, on embattled Alderman Jim Gardner, who has a host of problems now. Allegedly, he gave a raise to a campaign worker in his taxpayer-funded account, not out of his campaign. Fill us in there.
Right, so this is for his race for Democratic ward committeeman in 2020, after he had already won Aldermanic election. And sources say that that the alderman allegedly tried to, instead of paying an employee in his Aldermanic office for work that employee did on the Democratic committeeman campaign with campaign funds, the alderman offered the employee a $10,000 raise to their city salary instead.
And we'll have to
which is illegal.
Which is illegal, if true, and that's something that obviously a red flag for investigators. We'll have to keep watching that. All right, this is a topic I know everyone wants to weigh in on. Kevin Fishbane, let's say the year is 2027. The Bears are coming off a thrilling Super Bowl victory. Justin Fields, his third NFL MVP. But where are the Bears playing?
Well, Paris, first of all, I expect to see in your Justin Fields jersey when they return home next week. It's a great question. I think we're all waiting on the bid at Arlington Park, right? And I think if the Bears win that bid, that's step one. And there's still a long way to go. But everything we've seen in the past, just this week, the reporting from WBEZ, just magnifies that rift between the Bears and the Chicago Park District that's been there for decades. And the Bears, every other week this year, they're going to be going to a road stadium that is better than theirs. They're going to be going to places that are making a lot more money and have a lot better environment for the fans than the stadium that they share with the Park District. So I think they're certainly motivated. And as you said, as these two sides continue to have this rift, it's going to give the Bears more motivation to find a way to get their own new stadium.
And you mentioned that WBZ report, Kevin. It showed tension between the Park District and the Bears. And yesterday on Chicago Tonight, my colleague Brandis Friedman talked with stadium consultant Mark Gannis about that story. She asked Gannis what needs to be done to Soldier Field to keep the team there. Here's what he said.
In Soldier Field, long term, I don't think it's viable. Is it viable? They need a new stadium. Wherever it goes, the next generation of Bears fans will be going to a new stadium. I'm quite confident of that, whether that is within the city limits of Chicago, along the lakefront near the existing stadium, or Arlington Park, or another location. I think we can look at, by the time we get to the end of this decade, the Bears are very likely to be playing in a new stadium somewhere in the Chicago area.
Mariah Wolfel, about that WBEZ report, just how bad is this rift between the Bears and the Chicago Park District? And just a reminder for all viewers, the Park District owns Soldier Field and the Bears lease it from them. I believe that's the arrangement. So how bad is that arrangement?
Well, I mean, I'll give you one example. The emails that WBEZ obtained talked about an April meeting between Park District CEO Mike Kelly and the Bears CEO Ted Phillips. And after that meeting, they had tense email exchanges in which Ted Phillips was asking for some documents that he may or may not have gotten from Mike Kelly, but claimed that he never got, outlining upgrades needed to the stadium. And Mike Kelly, told him that he had a propensity for historical misstatements, saying that he had given him those documents previously. And so I think that characterizes these longstanding tensions over upgrades, but also, as we've now seen, over the Bears' desire for the ability for sports betting at the stadium. Well, we'll have to see how that plays out. Nate Arisa, you're a Bears fan. Are they going to lose fans by not playing in historic Soldier Field? I mean, they played at Wrigley Field, obviously, before that, but Soldier Field has been a staple along the lakefront. Will fans follow them to Arlington Heights?
Yeah, I think if they didn't lose fans through the Mark Trestman and John Fox era and watching Mitch Trubisky for 4 years, I don't think they'll lose fans for going to Arlington Heights. I mean, it would. That is such a good
point. That is an excellent point.
People love to see them on the lakefront, but also if you're going to a state-of-the-art facility with at least 10,000, 20,000 more seats, more amenities, bedding. I mean, the very simple thing of restaurants around the stadium. I think just how many suburban fans there are, and even city fans being able to take the Metro up there. I think they'll have a packed stadium every week.
It definitely does help that there's that Metro stop there at Arlington Park. Kevin Fishbane, by the way, when is that deal going to be announced? When will we know who is the winning bidder for that property?
It's a good question, Paris. There were rumors the end of September was kind of some of the rumors that were swirling, and here we are. So it seems, I think Arlington's season is starting to wrap up too, so maybe that has something to do with it. But certainly, as I said, those emails that came out this week, the timing of those emails exchanges took place a couple weeks before the Bears announced that they placed that bid. So just the Bears said that there's those two things they're not related, but it's hard to buy that.
Right. Very interesting timing. I think the last race is actually this weekend. All right, let's talk about the White Sox, Kevin Fishbane. They clinched the division, but fans are a little nervous because they've been playing 500 ball since the All-Star break. Are there any signs that they can get hot in time to make a run in the playoffs?
Well, I think the way they clinched with all those home runs from their star players, I think was a reminder of what they're capable of. If you go back to 2005, they had this kind of September swoon where everyone was nervous that they were going to blow this huge lead to Cleveland, and they still got into playoffs. The difference that year was you still had a lot of confidence in the starting pitching, and right now you just don't know what you're going to get from Carlos Rodon at this point. Dallas Keuchel, you can't depend on him. Lucas Giolito's had a good year, but not a great year. Lance Lynn's been hurt. So all these guys, if you could rely on those four guys, you'd be in good shape. But I think this team might have to rely a little bit on getting kind of the power surge that we saw, and that's been inconsistent all season long. So I think that White Sox fans just want to skip ahead and get to October. It was a bit of a relief that they finally clinched and they could stop worrying about it. But yeah, it's been a tough go the past couple of weeks.
And of course, Rodon nursing that injury, although the team says he'll be back right in time for the playoffs. All right, let's talk about the actual game for the Bears. Justin Fields makes his first NFL start. Should fans temper their expectations here? I mean, he's got all the potential in the world, but he is a rookie. I mean, should we expect to see rookie mistakes?
I think you should expect to see them, Paris, but I'm not going to tell a Bears fan temper expectations. I mean, this could be the guy. I mean, this guy is more talented than any quarterback this team has had, in their entire 100 years. That doesn't mean he's going to be the best quarterback in the franchise history, but he has the potential. He has the most potential of anybody that they've brought in. That could be a little bit of a low bar, but I think it's okay to be excited. I think we have to remember it's going to be a roller coaster with him. Like, he's going to have some incredible 50-yard throw or 60-yard run on Sunday. He's going to throw an interception that you're going to be like, that you're going to realize, okay, he's a rookie. It's his first start on the road against a good defense. So everyone just got to ride the roller coaster this year. But I think, Bears fans have gone through so much with this position for so long. I think it's okay to be excited now and just see where this thing goes.
I don't think
Did they say that about Rex Grossman?
Well, no, that's true. I don't think Rex Grossman had the potential upside that Justin Fields does. And Kevin, you're right. I mean, there was that beautiful throw to Allen Robinson in the end zone that he dropped, and then there was that tough interception. All right, we'll see what happens. We're out of time. Our thanks to Mariah Woelfel, Kevin Fishbane, Sarah Schulte, and Nader Issa. And that is our show for this Friday night. Don't forget you can get Chicago Tonight and the Weekend Review streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news. And be sure to join us tomorrow night at 6 for Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, and then Chicago Tonight Black Voices at its new time, Saturdays at 6:30. You can also see the Voices program Sundays starting at 10 p.m. And we're back at 7 o'clock Monday with Chicago Tonight, of course. And for the Weekend Review, I'm Paris Schutz. Thank you all for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and enjoy the weekend.
Closed captioning is made possible by